Planning Commission to order, please. Could we have the roll?
Nancy Bennett. Here. Harry Holland.
Here.
Susan Little. Richard Lynn.
Here.
Jonathan Pendlebury.
Here.
Michael Smith.
Here.
Michael Sosback.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 17th meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of February 17th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Richard, any comments on the minutes? Nancy? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence for the notes is we've got the finding of fact that was sent to the zoning board in our correspondence. Are there any citizens wishing to comment on or provide a non-agenda request? No? Lisa, your report?
I have no committees to report on this meeting. I think it's the first time ever. Thank you. I will introduce Tony when we get to that point.
Okay. We have no old business, to my knowledge, on the agenda, so we can go right to new business. And Lisa, if we can have you explain to us what the endorsement of the block grant is.
The town applies for community development block grant funds every year. They've done it since 1987. So it's a yearly competitive grant process that is handled by or filtered down from the federal government to the state of Rhode Island. I think there's 4 cities in the state that are what they call entitlement communities. They're automatically given $400,000. They also have to apply for, submit what they want to do with the money, but they're automatically given it. Jamestown is in with the other communities in the state, whereby it's a competitive grant process, and everything that we apply for is reviewed against every other community in their projects. So, given that, I provided you with the list of projects that we are going to submit this year. And once again, we are at our $250,000 limit that we're allowed to apply for. Plus, we have additional funding being requested for affordable housing development, as well as economic development. Neither of those are subject to the $250,000 cap. This goes through a process every year whereby 2 public hearings are held. We've held both of those public hearings internally. And it's then approved by the Planning Commission as being consistent with the comprehensive plan, and then it's sent to the Town Council for endorsement prior to the grant being submitted on April 3rd? April 13th. So I won't go through them in detail because you provided that in the memo. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Is the $250,000 limit set by the legislature?
It's set by the state. Yeah.
And it's specific to certain things, and certain things are floaters.
It's specific to all the communities that, actually it's based on, I think your population, I think partially. Yeah, but our cap has always been $250,000. It may be all the non-competitive, or all the competitive grants communities are $250,000 and the others are $400,000. I'm not positive about that though.
How much of this do we actually get every year?
We get anywhere from, $35,000 to $150,000. Generally, we're somewhere in the range between $35,000 to $75,000.
Is it specific to any of these, or can we use it any way we need to?
Once we receive the funding, it is for specific projects.
So they will pick out A, B, and C and say, we'll give you money for this.
Yes, they will.
So as I recall, last year I asked about affordable housing, and we didn't very often get money. Am I right about that?
That was for the affordable housing development.
Was that what that was?
Yes, that is correct.
So we
We
already applied,
applied, I believe, 5 years for development funds, and we received it 1 year.
and did we get anything that goes toward affordable housing?
Last year,
Like for the church,
Church
corporation?
Community Housing gets funded on a yearly basis for their operating expenses, but we did not receive any development money. We did receive rehabilitation money that came through as part of the stimulus funding that was filtered down through the Office of Housing and Community Development. So they considered that CDBG funds, but it was stimulus funding. It was separate from the actual CDBG grant process. But we received $140,000 for that. And that money is going into Bayside Terrace over on Connecticut Avenue.
Thanks. I'm presuming under economic development, you meant to say they will train individuals, is that correct?
What page are you on?
First page, economic development, third line.
Yes. I provided a suggested motion for approval on the third page.
Would you like a motion?
Please.
Okay, I move the Jamestown Planning Commission hereby certifies that the proposed PY 2010 Community Development Block Grant activities are in compliance with local development policy as set forth in the 2002 Jamestown Comprehensive Community Plan as amended to 2004, and with the Jamestown Subdivision and Land Development Regulations and Jamestown Zoning Ordinance.
Could we just amend that to be FY 2010?
Actually, it's programmed here.
Oh, it's program, I'm sorry. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Anyone? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. And I'd like to turn the next piece over to you, Lisa,
Thank
to
you.
give us a brief explanation and do the
For those
introduction.
of you who don't know, Tony Blackowitz is our consultant. And I'm going to let you give a bit of a background about your history. But the Conservation Commission has been desirous of adopting conservation development within our regulations for, I want to say, a year or so now, maybe longer. There was a movement in Rhode Island that started several years ago to adopt conservation development in lieu of cluster development, just because it's a more comprehensive process. And so the state of Rhode Island, specifically the Department of Environmental Management, has been holding training sessions and working with communities to get them to adopt conservation development as part of their ordinances. Jamestown, as part of that, they offered free consultant services to have a consultant review our land development regulations and zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan, which we had done, I think it was 2006, and so we had it done back then. And so the Conservation Commission kind of picked up where that left off and encouraged the town to hire Tony to do the work for us. So luckily we did not have to go out to bid because it was under $5,000. So here we are today, and so I'm going to let Tony explain what he's doing and what his background is.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Again, for the record, my name is Tony Blackowitz. I'm a planning consultant. I've been hired by the town to help Jamestown put together amendments to your land use regulations that would help to implement the concept of conservation development. For those of you who are not familiar with what conservation development is, Lisa, if you just show, there's a couple of documents. This is a handbook that was written in 2003 by the PEM, which goes into the benefits of conservation development.